Football Manager is the ultimate sandbox, a game where you can manage anyone, play anywhere, learn about players all around the world, or in my case today, go forward 100 years and see what it predicts. This is the first of 3 videos dropping over the next few days where we simulate into the distant future. Today, the year is 2121. Let's get straight into this. So folks, we're back. Hello, how's it going? I don't look that different considering that I've gone in a time machine 100 years. We are here in 2021 and the world of football appears to have changed a little bit, although Tottenham are currently without a manager in the Premier League and I assume struggling. So some things don't change. And, well, I'm just sat here thinking, what's the first thing we should check on? I guess the first thing to explain is just how this is all set up. So I have got the top 4 leagues in England loaded. I've also got France, Germany, Italy, Portugal, and Spain. Today we've gone forward 100 years. As I've already kind of mentioned, in the next couple of days, there's going to be more videos dropping further into the future of the same simulation as this one. And I'm kind of just interested to see how the world of football plays out according to Football Manager. And, well, you know what? Given the fact it's the global game, I feel like the best place to start, actually, is with World Cup past winners. Now, as is always the case with these kind of videos, I have one pair of eyes. I can't see absolutely everything that's going on. So if you do spot anything that I just completely miss, let me know about it down in the comment section. I think between the kind of 20,000 or so of us who are most likely to watch this video in the first few days it's up, we can spot a hell of a lot. And I'm looking at the World Cup winners. There is a lot of European dominance, but it's coming from some rather unusual teams. 2022, the World Cup in Qatar was won by Austria, with Nigeria finishing runner-up, and then Belgium in 3rd. The following year, England won the World Cup, and then followed Spain and France, and then Chile just pop up. Rather unusual. A Chile-Argentina final in 2038. The year after that, Brazil did well, with Russia finishing runner-up. Morocco, one of the more odd teams I think we've seen here, finishing 3rd place in a World Cup in 2042. As we go forward, the likes of Brazil, France, and England winning the Premier League fairly frequently, but it's kind of splattered in between. We've got Portugal doing very well. Denmark had a little period where they were popping up frequently, and then it feels like it was a Portuguese era of sorts. Portugal won the World Cup in 2062. Obviously, Serbia won it in 2070, and then Portugal finished runners-up in 3 World Cups in a row over 12 years between 2078 and 2086. One of those was against Brazil. You have to assume that that as a game would have been an absolutely crazy one. More recently, Norway have picked up a couple of titles, although the kind of bigger European nations, I suppose, when it comes to football, in Germany, France and England kind of still sticking around. And most recently, Italy won the World Cup for the first time in this entire run of a simulation. For the first time in, well, over 100 years, they won the World Cup. In fact, it was 112 years, right? Italy won it in 2006. Look at that. I do know a little bit about football. Wales, runner-up, and I know I'll get shouted at if I don't mention it. Scotland finished 3rd in a World Cup, and Switzerland won a World Cup, which does seem a little bit odd for Switzerland to be doing quite that well. If we just look at the world rankings for biggest nations, you can see here Portugal, Spain, France, England leading the way, Brazil up in 6th, Uruguay and Switzerland and Wales. A little bit surprising to be as high as they are. Same with Chile, to be fair. I'm sure as I scroll through this list, you are going to notice nations who have either climbed up significantly or just dropped off the face of the earth. It's fair to say the world of football has changed a little bit in this time. Indonesia up in 48th. Does that seem weird to anyone else? Am I weird for thinking that's a strange one? Their key man doesn't look that good, Kusen. I was wondering if they had some mad player from some random kind of league, but no, they don't really seem to have any crazy players. They're just fairly high in the rankings. I will just scroll through the rest of this. Of course, if you spot anything, shout about it down below. There's hundreds of nations here, so inevitably there's going to be some stuff that I miss. I'm trying to spot any nations that have dropped down really, really far, but to be honest, there isn't any super surprising ones here, I want to say. Gibraltar up in 189th. I think that's actually an improvement on where they are normally. Botswana, sorry, 100 years in the future, you are still going to be the worst nation in the world. I say that like Botswana are usually predicted to do really well and aren't normally towards the bottom. I don't think that's necessarily the case. Any Botswanan football experts, please let me know. So when it comes to the Euros, some surprising nations in here. A few nations popping up who didn't show up too much when we were looking at World Cups. England had a very good early spell of dominance. You can see Norway finished runners-up one year, which is a pretty impressive achievement, just kind of 2 competitions into the entire thing. Croatia won it back-to-back in the 2040s, followed by Austria and Serbia picking up some wins. Serbia appear to have done quite well from a national point of view. They've won a World Cup, they've been in the Euros and won these. Their current world ranking is 26th, so they've never really maintained it. You'd have to imagine it's kind of a golden generation that came through that served them particularly well. Beyond that, England won it, followed by France for 2 years. Belgium finishing runner-up 2 years in a row to France. I say 2 years in a row. They were 4 years apart, but two competitions. You know what I meant. And as we scroll up here, you can see Spain, Portugal, Italy, Scotland winning a major competition. Shout out to Scotland, Denmark, and then again Portugal having these weird spells of dominance where they just seem to be able to create super teams. I'm wondering when we look at the Portuguese Premier League, which I have got loaded for this, if that league is kind of raised to be one of the better ones in Europe, because, I mean, Portugal are doing very well. They're number 1 in the world rankings. Presumably they have some very good players. Their key man is Felipe Pedrosa. He's 25. He's very good. He's playing for Dortmund, who I have to assume by the fact they're paying him £300,000 a week, over 100 years haven't dropped off too much. And just have a final look at the Euro. Spain and France winning it most recently, with Norway finishing runner-up. They finished runner-up 2 European kind of football championships into things. They finished runner-up 2 from the end as well. Poor Norway. They come close on a few occasions in a few of these competitions, but never managed to win it all. So over in the main European leagues, the leagues we've got loaded, how are things looking, you might ask? Well, Brighton, the best team in England. They've won the title the past 3 years in a row. Prior to that, a period of Man City dominance where it looks like it was very one-way traffic. Although, to be fair, Southampton and Huddersfield popping up in the past winners. We'll have a look at those in just a moment, but not before we look at the Premier League table, where there's a little bit of change, but the teams you'd normally expect to be here are still here. Chelsea finishing second, Liverpool, Manchester United, Man City, Arsenal, all kind of still at the top of the pile. Newcastle, obviously, their billionaire owners have come and gone at this point, but they're still maintaining their kind of status as one of the bigger teams in England from the looks of things. They finished second in 2107. Of course, that was a little over a decade ago. They've gone through a rough spell, but they've just had a good breakout season, finishing third. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised to see Brighton as high as they are right now. You can see they've steadily been climbing up. Be interesting now when we go and check the past winners to see if they won the competition any years prior. Did an ownership change happen that changed their finances, perhaps? It doesn't look like it. There was a failed tycoon takeover, but in general, it looks like they've made their way to the top just through kind of pure grit and determination. If we look at the season preview, Brighton were predicted to win the league. It doesn't look like they have any of the best players in the league. Viode is apparently the best player in the league. He is a Swiss forward playing for Chelsea. I mean, I'm now beginning to see why Switzerland might be quite good here. If they've produced a few players like this over the years, yeah, they will do quite well. He is absolutely ridiculous with those physicals and that pace. That is silly. Chris McConville is another player who's very, very good. He's Northern Irish, and he must be one of the best Northern Irish footballers I've ever seen in Football Manager. Wow. 90 caps. He is ridiculous for a 26-year-old. He was signed from Aston Villa for £51 million. I'm going to go ahead and say it. £51 million, probably quite well spent. Anyway, if we look at the past winners here, you can see Brighton winning it the last few years, although they did finish runner-up on a number of occasions prior to eventually kind of cracking the top of the table and getting in there. Not before Man City had a really long spell of dominance. If we just go to the bottom and look through things in chronological order, you can see here Manchester United and Man City sharing the spoils of the title back and forth for 20 years. Yes, that's right. For 20 years, Man City and Manchester United shared the Premier League trophy and no one else was allowed to have it. Eventually, Arsenal came in and won it 3 years in a row. Then it went back to Man City and Manchester United. Arsenal then had a run of dominance. Finally, Liverpool won the Premier League in 2055. That is a lot longer than you would normally expect it to take them to win the league. Beyond there, Arsenal just continued to do their thing. Arsenal really had a really good run in the 40s and 50s from the looks of things. Manchester United and Tottenham then coming into their own. Tottenham having their own weird spell of dominance. It feels like this is a league full of eras, including an era where West Ham won the Premier League on a couple of occasions. Southampton won it in 21-02-03, which probably was the most weird winners until Huddersfield managed to win the competition. They have now finished 15th in the Premier League, so it's safe to say the glory days for the Terriers? Are Huddersfield called the Terriers? I don't know why I've gone with Terriers, and I'm not sure why. Are they known as the Terriers? We have to find out now. I don't know why I doubted myself. I never had any doubts. There it is, the Terriers. I mean, I really should know that. Is that obscure football knowledge? Did you know that at home? Answers on a postcard, let me know. Now, of course, it's not just the Premier League I've got loaded, but I'm not going to be able to go through all the lower leagues of England in a load of detail. What I will do instead is flick through the divisions so we can have a look at the different league tables. And I would encourage you, if you notice any teams are missing, scream and shout about the fact those teams are missing in the comments. Or maybe you'll spot some teams that have had monumental rises or falls. Looking at the Championship here, Blackpool winning it, Everton finishing second, Ipswich and Sheffield United playing in an upcoming playoff final. Over in League One, you can see here Bristol City beat Bradford in the League One final. That almost sounds like a fairly normal League One playoff game to me, in my head at least. It doesn't sound that outrageous for 100 years in the future. Looking through the league here, Morecambe finishing fourth, Forest Green up in second, so they're going back into the Championship. Besides that, Blackburn and Charlton getting relegated down to League Two is a little bit of a shocker. Speaking of League Two, if we just look at the league here, Millwall promoted back to League One, Notts County and Doncaster relegated down to the non-leagues, and then beyond there, I don't have any of the leagues loaded, so we can't look at this in a load of detail. As always with these kind of videos, I'm going to have a link, by the way, to a save game down in the description, so if you want to have your own little poke around, look at your own club that you support's history in a load of detail, all you need to do is download the file that's linked below, and then you'll just be able to load it like any other file through Football Manager. Anyway, we've had a look at England. I feel like we should go and look at the rest of Europe. And you know what? It feels right that we start with League 1 because they are the second best league in Europe, at least by reputation here. Unfortunately, PSG have just won the league. Brest, by the way, finishing second, and I'm seeing a sea of Brest down the right-hand side. What a sight. I'm not sure if we're allowed to show that on YouTube. If we look at the past winners here, PSG, a constant member of this kind of elusive pack at the top of Liga, who just seem to win the league on the regular. In fact, for the first few years, actually, I was going to say for the first few years, they were dominant. There was one year, 2024-25, where surprisingly, not that far into a save game, PSG finished down in third. That would be a big disappointment. Rennes took advantage and won the league 4 years into a save game. That's pretty good. Whoever was managing Rennes should have done a Let's Play on it, because that is an unusual achievement. Unfortunately, Rennes won the league and then PSG got angry and won the league again and again and again and again and again for basically 25 years, with Lyon and also Nancy just kind of, I guess, disrupting the monotony every now and then, but not to any significant degree. I'm kind of surprised to see PSG still doing as well as they are, but I guess they're just set up really well, and even after their owners have left them, the wealth isn't there anymore, they're still a pretty good team. Montpellier in the 80s won 4 out of 5 kind of league titles, which is not a bad little achievement. And then Marseille and Lyon had their own little battle where they won it infrequently. Nice also snuck in 2073. PSG and then kind of Lyon battled back and forth. Marseille still popping in every now and then. Monaco won it in 2107. Is that the first year that Monaco won it? I think it is, 21-7. That feels weird to say as a date in the future, doesn't it? And then from there, Brest have come the closest, really, to creating an era of dominance to compete with PSG, but PSG have won it intermittently in the meantime. If we just look at Brest's league history here, you can see how they've climbed to the top and then been a consistent team over the last few years. If we look at their landmarks, they did have a tycoon takeover 15 years ago, so I imagine that's probably one of the reasons why they were actually able to compete at the very, very top. I kind of want to have a little look at Rennes, because Rennes, as we talked about, won the league, obviously in one of the first few years, and now they've just kind of finished second, so they're clearly one of the better teams in the league. They have had a tycoon takeover themselves. That's always the first thing that I check whenever anything unusual happens, just because it's not that uncommon. But no, Rennes, to be fair, have done okay. You can see here, they had a couple of rough years, but for the last few seasons, consistently finishing in the top 4, becoming one of the better teams. As for Monaco and Nantes, who we saw had won league titles, and even Lyon to an extent, they have really, really dropped off the pace. Same with Marseille. All these teams who won the title during the last 100 years, falling off, and it's really the Brest, Rennes, PSG era, the three clubs here separated by only 3 points. So over in Germany, Dortmund won the league, Bayern finished second. That doesn't feel that weird to me in terms of kind of odd teams doing well. If we look at the past winners, oh God, okay, Dortmund, okay. So what's happened here is Bayern have won it for the first 15 years. Bayer Leverkusen then snuck in with a title, and then Bayern just took over again. Leipzig won it a couple of years. Hertha Berlin won it in 2047 and again in 2051. I mean, you can see here, it's the same 4 teams kind of trading blows, and then it's just Dortmund and Bayern again for an extended period. Weird to note that Dortmund didn't really win the league for any kind of era for a very long time. It's only really, I'd say, since 2075 when they won the league for the first time 3 years in a row. You could say they've had an era of dominance. It's an era that went on for quite a long time, though, mind you. 24 years span. They won the league 22 times. That's not too bad. Stuttgart put up some resilience, but unfortunately the Dortmund machine has got back into gear. And, well, despite Bayern's best attempts to win the league every now and then, Dortmund have now just won it the last 5 years or in a row, or no, even 6 years in a row. So it turns out Borussia Dortmund quite good. And Felipe Pedrosa, that Portuguese forward we looked at before, yeah, he's still quite good. Obviously, he's the reason that they're doing as well as they are. He has scored a ridiculous number of goals year on year. Looks like an absolute bargain at £44.5 million. In Italy, Juventus still winning the league. Yeah, I mean, look, Juventus are just very good, aren't they? Past winners. I mean, there's a bit of variety here, and in fact, there was a spell where Juve weren't that good, and Inter and Roma kind of battled out with Milan. Atalanta winning it in 2063, is that a slightly odder one? If we scroll down to the very bottom, you can see Atalanta won the league first season. Then Juve took it personally and went on a stomping spree. Fiorentina put up a little bit of opposition during the 40s and 50s. Inter and Roma also getting the odd title here and there. There was, as I mentioned, an era in the middle where Inter did very well, but the big headline really is Juve were nowhere to be seen. They were not finishing second, they were not finishing third, and then someone came along in 2085 and revitalised them. Who was the man in 2085 who revitalised them? It was Stephen Yap, who was in charge for 14 years from 2085 to 2100, and, well, under his stewardship, they won the league a lot. And then he retired, and they continued to win a lot, and they've continued to win a lot since. I feel sorry for Inter. They are kind of trying to put up the good fight. Unfortunately, they're not quite capable of doing battle against Juve. Okay, this is more like it, innit? Espanyol, Spanish champions, for a lot of years, from the looks of things. Where's Barcelona? They're in 8th. I was looking down thinking, have they been relegated? No, they are still here. Real Madrid and Atleti still doing okay in the league. I want to look at the past winners here, because Espanyol have won the league the last 7 years in a row. Before that, it was Granada winning it. And, well, besides them, Sociedad have had a little spell of dominance. Real Madrid have done very, very well over the years. Barcelona have won the league here and there, but they've not been very, very good in all of this simulation looking at things. Looks like Real Betis had a few good spells. Sociedad actually look like they've been a really, really good team for a few different eras, which is a little bit odd. They've been kind of really second fiddle to Real Madrid for an extended period of time. Just going back to the more immediate future, at least, versus where we are in real life right now, you can see Real Madrid won it first year, then Barcelona won it 4 years in a row. Sociedad snuck in and won it. And, well, since then, they've kind of creeped in more and more. Atleti won the league a few times in the 50s. But yeah, Sociedad and Real Betis doing their thing. And besides that, it's been Real Madrid. More recently, Espanyol and Granada have come into the fray. Shall we have a look? Have they had tycoon takeovers? Of course they've had tycoon takeovers. It turns out all you need to be successful with football in the future is money. I say that like that's some kind of crazy, mad piece of news. I feel like we all already know that money wins football. That is certainly what the simulation here is proving. And over in Portugal, things are just a little bit of a mess. TND, now I should apologise, I've not got a real name fix installed, so apologies Portuguese fans. I'm going to show the gaps in my footballing knowledge here. TND, I have no idea who TND are. They've won the league. I don't know if they'd ever won it before in their history. They finished runners-up in 21-16. Still feels like a weird date to say. But they have just won the league. In terms of the other past winners, I'm going to level with you. It's a bit of a mess in recent years. There is just loads of random teams winning it every kind of year, really, for the last 10 years. A good competitive league. Prior to that, though, it was the likes of Benfica and Porto doing very well. Braga had a spell of dominance in the 80s. Porto and Benfica in the 60s. Nacional da Madeira have had the odd title here and there, so fair play to them. Also, Vitória won it in 2036. That was not before Porto had a very, very lengthy initial spell of dominance over in Portugal. I'm sure when it comes to these recent years where it looks like things have got way, way more random, there's going to be some Portuguese viewers in the know who are going to be able to tell me more about this, maybe even load up the save games themselves and tell me the weird and wonderful stuff that I can't truly appreciate that's happened here in Portugal. It looks odd. So the current season Champions League final hasn't been played yet. It's Brighton v Roma. So if you want to leave a bold or outrageous prediction for who you think's going to win it, please feel free to. In terms of past winners, this is very weird because teams like Southampton, who never really won the Premier League that much. They won the Premier League once. Southampton have managed to win the Champions League 6 times in recent years. They may have even won it prior to this. I suppose we should start at the very bottom and work through things in order. So Liverpool won the Champions League first year, then PSG, Bayern, Man City finally getting their hands on it. Arsenal fans, look forward to 2031. You're going to win a Champions League then. Besides then, it's kind of the usual culprits, towards the top. Who was the first particularly weird winner? I don't know if Tottenham fall into the category of weird and unlikely winner. I'll let you be the judge at home. Leipzig winning it in 2072. I'll be honest, it's very, very normal. All the way through. Marseille winning it in 2097. I would actually argue that of all the teams to win it, Southampton is the first name that really jumps out as that's a team I wouldn't expect to be doing as well as they are. We then have this team, oh God, Grufer Firth? That's not, it might be, I don't know, third? I don't know. German viewers, let me know answers on a postcard. I actually don't send your answer on a postcard because it's going to be written down. That still doesn't explain to me how to say this team's name. We'll just call them the Lucky Team. They've got a clover on their badge, or at least I assume it's a clover. I know that in real life they're struggling a lot in the Bundesliga. I think they're right down at the bottom of the table. Don't worry, Clover team fans. In 2112, you're going to win a Champions League. And at Brest, who we saw have been good in France, have won it recently. Rennes winning the competition as well the year before this one. And of course, Brighton in the final of the current kind of season. Liverpool, by the way, won it in 21-16. I'm looking through now the runners-up. Are there any particularly weird runners-up in the early years? I wasn't paying too much attention to it. I guess Sociedad, maybe. But even then, yeah, it feels like the status quo, at least for the first kind of 50 or so years, was normal, and then it kind of then went all off the rails. Of course, we have got the Euro Cup as well, the Europa League. This year, just gone. Who's in the final, you might wonder? It's Bayer and the Lucky Team. Why did it have to be the team whose name I literally have no idea how to say? I can't believe it. Looking through the past winners here, I'm going to scroll through it. You can keep your eye out and spot the weird and wonderful things. Definitely more diversity in the winners, though. Large spell of dominance for English clubs from the look of it. Cologne winning it in 2056. Leicester can winning it in 2065. Strikes me as odd. Nancy doing well. Huddersfield. Fulham? Where are Fulham now? Fulham are 13th in the Premier League, but they did win the Europa League once upon a time. Does look like the English teams had a pretty good time in this competition, all in all. Yeah, I mean, there's the previous winners. I'm noticing a lot of the competitions are hosted in England. It feels like it's just on a cycle of the same nations. Maybe that's just me. Of course, we shouldn't forget about the Conference League, that other competition that does exist. Viz, who I did notice were doing quite well in Portugal. They won it in 2016. Sheffield Wednesday winning the Europa Conference League in 2018. Sheffield Wednesday fans, don't let anyone tell you when that comes around and you get to celebrate that your club is tin pot for celebrating a Conference League. It's a major European honour. At least that's what UEFA are trying to tell us. Dunfermline won it in 2015-16. Dunfermline, by the way, playing in the Scottish Premiership, which I haven't got loaded. I'm going to be honest, it's just Celtic winning it year after year after year, pretty much. Although Rangers did play well, at least initially. Yeah, not a load of interesting stuff here. In this video, I've not really been going through the leagues that I've not got loaded, just because they don't sim in full detail to the same extent. But Dunfermline, don't let that take away from the fact you won the Conference League. In the first few years, you can see some of the winners here. Roma, Arsenal, Sevilla, Dortmund, kind of standard bigger clubs. Nacional da Madeira, one of the teams that we noticed kind of doing some reasonably successful stuff over in Portugal, managed to win it in 2043. Austria Vienna, I think that's the first Austrian club we've seen pop up winning the competition. Rangers have won it as well. I mean, have Celtic won this one at all? I've not seen Celtic anywhere, so maybe they haven't. No, doesn't look like they have. And finally, to wrap things up today, we'll have a look at some of the global awards, starting with the Ballon d'Or, where after, obviously, Modric, Messi, Ronaldo all doing their thing, Eden Hazard won the first Ballon d'Or. Harry Kane finished runner-up. I'm not going to ask any questions. I fear that seeing that as a result invalidates the rest of this video in its entirety. You can see Hazard did okay. Then Bruno Fernandes won it in 2022. Kylian Mbappe moved to Bayern Munich and won it a lot. And then when he stopped winning it, Erling Haaland was instead winning it for Bayern Munich. So not really surprising to see them doing so well. Mohamed Seba then stepped up, who is a Belgian regen, and won it 3 years in a row with Manchester United, of course. There's a load of different names and teams here. At this point, all of these players are just not real and are regens. But Dortmund players having a jolly good time with it all. And the team whose name I can't say, the Lucky Team, their man, this guy, is it Sindik? I'll let you guys decide how to say it amongst yourselves. I mean, Turkish viewers, let me know. 31 years old, 142 caps. He's won the Ballon d'Or 4 times. He's pretty bloody good. I mean, he's very, very good. He's described as a legendary striker. And I feel like, you know, when you win the Ballon d'Or 3 times in a row and then go on to win it, kind of most recently in 21-20, after a few years without winning it, mind you, that deserves to be praised. Elsewhere, Felipe Pedrosa, and then the first English player I've noticed really anywhere, Frank Lund, 33 years old, playing for Brest, signed for £117 million. Looks like their star man. I mean, considering his physicals are probably falling off a little bit, he is a very, very good player. Unsurprisingly, has 149 caps. I thought I'd look at the World Team of the Year, not entirely sure if any of the players that were going to show up were going to be real players we'd recognise. But the good news is, Kylian Mbappe's out on the left. Erling Haaland is there as a striker. You can see how his career played out. He actually went to Man City before he got a move to Bayern Munich. Elsewhere, Lund, who we just looked at, is in centre mid in the team. There's, of course, a load of other regens and such appearing. Is there any particularly interesting players here? I want to see if there's any others that haven't retired yet, but obviously we're 100 years into the future. This is the all-time 11. The fact that Lund hasn't retired and has made it into the kind of world best 11 really is a testament to how good he is. Yeah, all the rest of these guys, sadly, lost to the sands of time. But I'm sure they had lovely careers in their own rights. We can imagine them. But anyway, gang, that is going to wrap up today's video from me. As I mentioned during the video, you can download this save game yourself. I will also include a save game 50 years in the future. So if you want to look at things kind of at a halfway point, in terms of the era that we've time traveled through today, you are more than welcome to do that. As always, if you have enjoyed it, do drop a like on it. Feed the YouTube algorithm. By feeding that and getting more people to discover the video, you feed Editing Jack, who makes all these videos, so that he can live. I mean, please do that, because if the worst happens and he starves, I have to then edit the videos and they won't be as good, basically. In the next couple of days, we will have the 200 year in the future video, and then after that, 500 years. Of course, both those videos will come with accompanied save games, so if you want to start a save game in the distant future or just look through things in more detail, you will be able to do that. I hope you're excited for those. I'll see you on the next one, and until then, it is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.